Doctor Who is known for its vast array of inventive and creative monsters and villains. From the evil Daleks to the terrifying Weeping Angels, these imaginative monsters are a cornerstone of the show, and a significant part of its worldwide success and acclaim. Some of these monsters are so successful that they make repeat appearances long after their creation. But alongside these repeat appearances often come redesigns brought on by the people in charge, or simply the passage of time through the years. However, one of the most controversial redesigns is that of the Cybermen, as Doctor Who was revived for the 21st century. But is this design change really all that bad? Envisioned by Kit Pedler and Jerry Davis in 1966, the Cybermen are a terrifying race of cyborg humanoids who are obsessed with upgrading themselves and everyone around them. It's a simple concept nowadays, sure, but back in the 60s this was revolutionary and hugely imaginative. In a way, the Cybermen are arguably more terrifying than the Daleks. The Daleks were created as a way to represent the horrors of Nazism. They're a visualization of humanity's past. The Cybermen, however, are a representation of humanity's future. As we continue to develop new, more advanced technology, we become obsessed with upgrading ourselves and automating our lifestyles. Sound familiar? This brings me to the so-called Cybusmen. These were the first Cybermen to be seen in the revived run of Doctor Who, unless you count this disembodied helmet. In 2006's Rise of the Cybermen, the 10th Doctor encounters a parallel universe version of the Cybermen. The episode itself is a story for another time due to its relatively poor reception, but today we're focusing on these parallel universe Cybermen. You see, these new Cybermen were completely different to the ones who had come before. Rather than coming from Earth's fictional twin planet Mondas, the 2006 Cybermen were created by Cybus Industries on a parallel Earth. This upset quite a few people. Gone were the more human features, replaced by stomping suits of armour. People all cried out that these weren't the real Cybermen, and that their existence was disrespecting the originals. But they all kind of missed the point. The point of the Cybusmen was to show the natural extension of modern society's drive to constantly upgrade technology. The Cyberman would now represent the ultimate upgrade of the human mind, the transplantation of the brain into a resilient artificial body. The Cybusmen were there to show how we as a society could realistically create Cybermen, rather than being invaded by Cybermen from another planet who had already done it themselves. This grounds the Cybusmen into the real world and makes them serve as a horrifying indication of the path humanity is going down if we continue this way. It's a wake-up call not unlike episodes of Black Mirror, giving us a glimpse at our own possible future. And when people ask why humanity would ever want to put their brains in a giant suit of metal, just remember that the dude that starts it in Rise of the Cybermen is literally just an old rich man with way too much power. Nobody else on the parallel Earth exactly wanted to become a Cyberman, he just forced them to. The Cybusmen are scary, even with their corny, deleted catchphrase and electric Vulcan death grip. They are unrelenting and indiscriminate in who they kill or convert. Just imagine one of these coming after you with no clear escape. You'd be terrified. They are also scary on an individual level. Much like the Cybermen of the past, there is no individuality, no personality, they are just shells. They represent how important emotion and personality is to the human race. But unlike those old Cybermen, we know the Cybusmen are directly converted from living, breathing humans who were forcefully and brutally converted against their will. The horror of this conversion is alluded to in some New Who episodes, but originally it was supposed to be even more extreme. For Age of Steel, the Cyberman euthanized by the Doctor was originally intended to be an 11-year-old boy. Obviously, this direction was probably quickly shut down by the BBC, because dude, that's f***ed up. The closest we ended up getting to this would be the Toclophane a year later in the Series 3 finale. But it is truly a shame that this brutal aspect was not kept in Age of Steel, because I personally feel like it would have allowed the audience to understand the true physical and ethical horror of the Cybusmen as intended by showrunner Russell T Davies. Honestly, to boil it down to its most simple state, the Cybusmen aren't Cybermen, at least not the Cybermen as we know them. They're a different take on the concept, not a reboot. As is shown in Series 10, the Mondas Cybermen still exist in New Who canon. The Cybusmen didn't replace them. Even the Moffat Cybermen aren't a reboot of the original Mondasian Cybermen. In the Series 7 episode Nightmare in Silver, we see a new design for the Cybermen. These new Cybermen looked more like Iron Man than either the Cybusmen or the Mondasian Cybermen. Whilst I personally find the design to look god-awful and a bit, well, lame, the concept behind the redesign is still very much in line with the Cybermen's core intentions and philosophy. Writer Neil Gaiman, yes, that Neil Gaiman, wanted to have these new Cybermen be regularly updating, representing how quickly modern technology like smartphones are evolving.
My phone now does not look like my phone 6 years ago.
He imagined that both the Cybusmen and the Mondasians would have at some point merged with each other, therefore combining parts of each design. Say what you will about Nightmare in Silver, I think it's better than its reputation suggests, but much like Rise of the Cybermen and Age of Steel, I'll open that can of worms at another time. Over the years, I've personally started to believe that the Cybermen are a better villain than the Daleks. With the exception of the Davies era Daleks, the Cybermen have always been a bit more interesting. The Daleks often come across rather one-dimensionally. They're just space Nazis, that's it. Russell T Davies tried to add some layers to the Daleks during his time as showrunner, but compared to the Cybermen, there isn't really much you can do with them. Due to the Cybermen's nature as a warning of our future, there is so much more you can do to explore them. Their purpose hasn't really changed since their introduction in the 10th planet, only their appearance has been truly altered through the years. I personally think it's misguided to criticise the Cybusmen for not being similar to their Mondasian predecessors. They were intended to show a completely different path to the same result. It's apples and oranges really. They're not supposed to be the exact same thing. They evolved differently, with the Cybusmen coming from an entirely different planet and universe. It's parallel evolution, something that's clearly expressed in the episode.
It's not a real parallel version, they're starting from scratch right here on Earth.
They evolved through different means and different environments, so of course they'd look and act differently. And besides, if humans were to end up building their own Cybermen, wouldn't they end up either being really human-like or completely robotic, rather than a Mondasian middle ground? The Cybusmen are the most realistic outcome of humanity creating Cybermen. Well, as realistic as taking your brain out of your body and putting it into an emotionless, identityless metal suit of armour could possibly be. Doctor Who is all about change. Recurring villains undergo design changes all the time. It keeps things fresh and up to date. None of the classic Who Cybermen would have looked good if they were brought back into New Who as they were. They're just too dated, and it's obvious that they're just guys wearing a silver suit with a bit of cardboard stuck on. And I say that as a fan of the classic Who era. In this postmodern media landscape, it was important to evolve the look of the Cybermen to better suit the 21st century. This is why the Cybusmen look completely different. Series 10 was able to bring back the Mondasian Cybermen and do them justice, but that was only on the back of the success of two other New Who Cyberman designs, introducing the monsters to the new audiences who started watching in 2005 or later. The Cybusmen have developed a bad reputation for their look and backstory, but I feel like they properly appeal to the modern fear of technology overwhelming the human body and lifestyle. There's nothing wrong with them. Their existence doesn't threaten the legitimacy of the classic Who Cybermen. They were an experiment of how to refresh the Cybermen for the modern audience. Did it work? That's debatable because of their reception, but they are still just as much of a Cyberman as the Mondasian Cybermen from over 40 years prior. And to me, that's all that matters.